In the vast darkness of space, Dr. Ju Park stood at the observation deck of the Earth vessel Horizon, watching as they approached the azure planet of Callum. The twin moons cast a silvery glow on the blue oceans that covered most of the alien world. After 7 months of interstellar travel, humanity's first diplomatic mission to meet the Azurians was about to begin. Nervous? Captain Do-Yeon Kim asked, joining her at the window. Excited, Ju replied, though her fingers fidgeted with the sleeve of her formal uniform. As the mission's lead xenoanthropologist, she had spent years studying the limited data on Azurian culture from robotic probes. Now she would finally meet them face to face. The landing was smooth, almost too perfect. When the airlock doors opened, Ju's breath caught in her throat. The Azurians were more beautiful than any image had captured. Their skin shimmered with various shades of blue, and their eyes were like liquid silver that seemed to reflect everything and reveal nothing. "Welcome to Callum," said an Azurian who stepped forward from the greeting party. "I am Lyran, chief diplomat of the Southern Hemisphere. We have awaited your arrival with great anticipation." His voice had a musical quality that made the translator in Ju's ear seem unnecessary. Something about it felt soothing, almost hypnotic. The human delegation was escorted through a city of crystal spires and flowing architecture. Everything seemed designed to catch and bend light in beautiful ways. Ju noted how the Azurians touched the humans often, a hand on the arm here, a brush of shoulders there, all seemingly casual but oddly consistent. That evening, the Azurians hosted a welcome feast. The food was strange but delicious, and the drinks came in glowing cups that changed color as they were consumed. "They're so perfect," whispered Communications Officer Jisoo to Ju. "Have you noticed? Not a single disagreement among them. No raised voices, no awkward moments." Ju had noticed. In her studies of dozens of cultures across Earth, she had never encountered any society without some visible tension or social friction. The harmony seemed unnatural. Later that night, Ju couldn't sleep. She decided to review her notes when she realized her data pad had been moved slightly from where she left it. When she checked the access log, her heart skipped a beat. Someone had viewed her personal research files for 20 minutes while she was at the feast. The next morning, several crew members reported strange dreams. Lieutenant Hunbin described creating a symphony in his sleep, despite having no musical training. Botanist Yuma talked about solving a complex genetic sequence for a plant species she had never studied. "I feel refreshed," Security Chief Tae-Yun said at breakfast. "But I can't remember anything after the third toast last night." Ju frowned. "What was the last thing you do remember?" "An Azurian asked me about Earth music. He put his hand on my shoulder, and then—" Tae-Hyun's brow furrowed. "Nothing until I woke up in my quarters." Over the next 3 days, the pattern continued. Friendly Azurians, perfect hospitality, and crew members with gaps in their memories and strange dreams. When Ju tried to document these occurrences, she discovered that some of her recordings were missing. On the 4th night, unable to sleep, Ju decided to explore the diplomatic quarters. The corridors were silent and dimly lit with a blue glow that reminded her of the Azurian skin. As she turned a corner, she heard soft voices from a room that should have been empty according to the schedule. Through a small gap in the doorway, she saw 3 Azurians standing around Engineer Minji, who sat with a blank expression on her face. One Azurian held a crystal device to Minji's temple, a wisp of something luminous, not quite light, not quite smoke, flowed from her head into the device. "Extraordinary creative capacity," one Azurian murmured. "Their emotions are so vibrant, so raw." "This one has technical knowledge we need," another replied. "Take only what won't be missed." Ju accidentally shifted her weight, causing the floor to creak. The Azurians turned toward the door, their silver eyes widening. Ju didn't wait. She ran. Back in her quarters, heart pounding, she tried to make sense of what she had seen. They were doing something to the crew's minds. Extracting something. But what? And why? The next morning, Minji had no memory of the incident. When Ju tried to discreetly ask about memory gaps, Minji just smiled vaguely and commented on how restful her sleep had been. During that day's tour of Azurian scientific facilities, Ju noticed something else. The decorative artifacts in every room were identical to objects that had been placed in the human quarters as cultural gifts. When no one was looking, she scanned one with her handheld device. The reading showed unusual energy patterns that matched brainwave frequencies. As Lyran approached with his perfect smile, Ju felt a chill despite the pleasant temperature. The Azurians were stealing something from the humans' minds, something they needed or valued, and they had gone to great lengths to hide it. That night, as Ju lay in bed pretending to sleep, she heard her door softly open. Through barely open eyes, she saw the silhouette of an Azurian enter her room, carrying one of the crystal devices. She would have to be very careful now. Whatever game the alluring blue aliens were playing, it involved more than diplomatic relations. They were stealing something far more personal than hearts. Ju knew she couldn't face the Azurians alone. The next morning, she found Security Chief Taehyun in the ship's gym, running on a treadmill despite the luxurious recreation facilities offered by their hosts. "I need to speak with you privately," she whispered when she was certain no one else could hear. "Something is happening to our crew." They met in the engine room, where the constant hum of machinery would mask their conversation. Engineer Minji joined them, looking pale and tired. "I don't feel right," Minji confessed. "I have these gaps in my memory, but also strange new ideas in my head. Yesterday I suddenly understood a propulsion concept I've been struggling with for months." Taehyun nodded grimly. "Several security personnel have reported similar experiences. I thought it might be something in the food or water." "It's not," Ju said. "Last night I saw Azurians using some kind of device on Minji while she was in a trance-like state. They were extracting something from her mind." Minji's eyes widened in shock. "That's impossible. I was in my quarters all night." "You don't remember because they don't want you to remember," Ju explained. "Those decorative crystals in our rooms, I think they're monitoring devices, maybe even tools to influence our minds." Taehyun's military training kicked in. "We need evidence before we can act. If we make accusations without proof, this diplomatic mission could fail." That evening, they prepared their trap. Minji disabled the crystal in her room and replaced it with a modified scanner that looked identical but would record any energy fluctuations. Taehyun set up motion sensors disguised as personal items. Ju prepared a special tea with a mild stimulant that would help her resist sleep. When night fell, they waited. Around midnight, Ju's tablet vibrated silently, motion detected in Minji's room. The three of them crept through the quiet hallways, Taehyun leading with a stunner hidden in his sleeve. Through the small gap in Minji's door, they saw two Azurians. One held the familiar crystal device while the other gently touched Minji's forehead. The sleeping engineer's expression changed from peaceful to intensely focused, as if solving complex equations in her dreams. "Now," Taehyun whispered. They burst into the room. The Azurians turned in shock, their blue skin pulsing with darker patches, a sign of distress, Ju realized. One reached for something at his belt, but Taehyun was faster. A soft whine from the stunner, and both aliens froze in place, conscious but temporarily paralyzed. "What are you doing to our people?" Ju demanded, checking on Minji, who was starting to wake up, confused. "We mean no harm," one Azurian said, his voice strained. "The exchange benefits both species." "Exchange." Taehyun activated the lights. "You're stealing from unconscious people without permission. On Earth, we call that theft." While Taehyun guarded the Azurians, Ju examined the crystal device they'd dropped. It contained swirling patterns of light, almost like liquid thoughts. "What is this?" she asked. The second Azurian, younger than the first, answered reluctantly. "We call it essence gathering. Your species has incredible mental energy, creativity, problem solving, emotional depth. We collect samples. For what purpose? Minji asked, fully awake now and horrified. Before they could answer, a soft chime sounded throughout the building. The older Azurian's eyes widened. Others will come soon. Please, you must understand. This isn't as simple as it seems. Jiwoo made a quick decision. Disable the alarm, and we'll talk privately. Otherwise, we'll alert our captain about everything. The younger Azurian touched a pattern on his wrist, and the chiming stopped. My name is Naren, he said. Technical specialist. He is Velar, cultural acquisition officer. A fancy title for someone who steals thoughts, Taehyun muttered. Over the next hour, a disturbing picture emerged. The Azurians were an ancient species who had reached a developmental plateau. Their harmonious society had eliminated conflict, but also stagnated innovation. Without fresh ideas, their civilization was slowly declining. We discovered that other species, particularly humans, generate mental energies we can harvest and integrate into our collective, Velar explained. Your conflicts, your struggles, your emotional range, they create thought patterns we lost centuries ago. Minji, the engineer, grasped the implication first. You're using our creativity to solve your problems. That's why I suddenly understood that propulsion theory. You took the problem from my mind, solved it with someone else's creativity, then returned the solution. Naren nodded. The process leaves beneficial traces. You gain insights you might not have reached for years. Without consent, Jiwoo insisted. You're manipulating our memories, invading our privacy. Previous species reacted negatively when we asked permission, Velar admitted. We need your mental energy to survive as a civilization. Dawn was approaching when they finished questioning the Azurians. Taehyun escorted them out with a warning to stay away from the human quarters. Back in Jiwoo's room, the three humans faced a dilemma. If we tell the captain, the mission ends immediately, Minji said. We'd lose all the legitimate scientific and cultural exchange opportunities. But we can't let them continue stealing from our minds, Taehyun countered. Jiwoo stared at the crystal device they'd confiscated, watching the swirling thoughts inside. Maybe there's another way. If the exchange truly benefits both sides, perhaps we can negotiate terms, with full awareness and consent. As morning light filtered through the windows, they agreed on a plan. They would gather more evidence, find out exactly what the Azurians were taking, and then propose an alternative to this secret theft. What they didn't realize was that Liran, the chief diplomat, was already aware of the night's events, and he had plans of his own for the humans who had discovered their secret. The examination room in the human ship Horizon buzzed with activity. Captain Do-Yeon Kim paced back and forth, while Medical Officer Sunwoo ran another scan on Jiwoo's brain. It had been 3 days since Jiwoo underwent the conscious extraction process with Liran, and the Earth leadership was still deciding how to respond. Your neural activity is unlike anything I've ever seen, Sunwoo said, reviewing the colorful brain scans. Regions that rarely communicate with each other are now exchanging information at remarkable rates. Jiwoo nodded. She had felt the changes immediately after the procedure. Colors seemed more vivid. Music carried deeper emotional resonance. Most strikingly, she could visualize complex systems with perfect clarity. It's like having a second perspective in my mind, she explained. Not a voice or a personality, but a different way of processing information. Captain Do-Yeon frowned. The question isn't whether there are benefits, Dr. Park. The question is whether Earth should allow this to continue. The ship's communication system chimed. Captain, we have an incoming transmission from Earth Command, announced Officer Jisoo from the bridge. The tension in the room thickened. After Jiwoo and her companions had revealed the Azurians' secret activities, the captain had sent a full report to Earth. Now they would learn their instructions. In the conference room, Admiral Chen's stern face filled the main screen. Captain Kim, we've reviewed your report on the unauthorized neural extraction activities. Earth Command orders the immediate termination of the diplomatic mission. Prepare your crew for departure within 24 hours. Jiwoo stepped forward, Admiral, with respect, I believe this decision is premature. Dr. Park, the Admiral acknowledged with narrowed eyes. Our experts have serious concerns about the implications of allowing an alien species access to human minds. I understand those concerns, Ju replied. I shared them before experiencing the process myself. But what the Azurians offer could transform human capability. The Admiral was unmoved. The risk of manipulation or dependency is too great. What if we could establish safeguards? Engineer Minji joined the conversation. I've been studying the Azurian technology. With modifications, we could create a system that allows neural exchange without memory alteration or unauthorized access. For the next hour, they debated. Admiral Chen insisted that no safeguards could justify allowing aliens to extract human thought patterns. Captain Do-yun worried about the diplomatic consequences of an abrupt departure. Security Chief Tae-yun argued for limited, monitored exchanges under strict protocol. Finally, Ju made her case. Admiral, before you make your final decision, I'd like to share something. She activated a display showing the solution to an engineering problem that had stumped Earth's best minds for decades. This is a working model for stabilizing wormhole apertures for faster-than-light travel, she explained. I conceptualized it yesterday while meditating. The Azurian neural patterns I received have changed how I process spatial relationships. The Admiral's expression shifted from dismissal to stunned silence. Every human who has undergone this exchange, even unknowingly, has shown similar breakthroughs. Ju continued. Imagine what we could accomplish with a structured program of voluntary exchanges. After a long pause, Admiral Chen spoke. I'm modifying the orders. Captain Kim, you are authorized to establish a limited pilot program. 20 volunteers may remain on Kelum for further study. The rest of the crew returns to Earth immediately. When the transmission ended, the room erupted in discussion. Some crew members immediately volunteered to stay, while others packed their belongings, wanting nothing to do with alien mind technology. That evening, Ju met with Li Ran in a neutral space between their compounds. The Azurian diplomat had lost some of his perfect composure in recent days, showing more authentic concern and hope. Your people are divided on this matter, Li Ran observed. As they should be, Ju replied. This is too important for easy consensus, but 20 of us will stay to establish proper protocols for mutual exchange. Li Ran's skin brightened. This exceeds my expectations. After your discovery, I feared the end of all contact. There are strict conditions, Ju explained. No unauthorized extractions, no memory alterations. All exchanges must be fully consensual and recorded. These terms are acceptable, Li Ran agreed. Though some of my people will resist the change. Change is difficult for everyone, Ju said with a small smile. That's one thing our species share. Over the next weeks, the remaining humans worked with Azurian scientists to develop a new interface technology. Minji's engineering insights combined with Azurian crystal technology created a transparent neural link that allowed conscious sharing without invasive extraction. The first official exchange session was broadcast to Earth. Volunteers from both species connected through the new interface, their thoughts flowing visibly through crystalline pathways between them. Unlike the previous secretive process, this exchange was celebrated with music and witnesses. When it ended, both humans and Azurians emerged with tears in their eyes. The depth of connection had been profound. What did you experience? Captain Do-yun asked one of the human volunteers. It's hard to explain, the young scientist replied. I felt their loneliness. Thousands of years of beautiful harmony but terrible sameness. And they felt our chaos, our conflicts and struggles, but also our boundless creativity. As word of the successful exchanges spread, opinions on Earth began to shift. What had started as a scandal of alien deception was evolving into the most significant development in human consciousness since the dawn of language. In her quarters that night, Ju recorded a personal message to be sent back to Earth. What we're discovering here is not just an exchange of ideas, she said softly. It's a new form of connection that neither species could have developed alone. We need their harmony. They need our creativity. Together, we might become something greater than either of us could imagine. 1 year after the first official neural exchange, the landscape of both human and Azurian society had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. The small diplomatic outpost on Callum had grown into a thriving settlement named Harmony, where curved Azurian architecture blended with practical human designs. Jiwoo walked through the central plaza, observing groups of humans and Azurians engaged in the daily exchange sessions. The process had been refined over months of research. Gone were the crystal extractors and memory alterations. In their place stood transparent interface pods where participants could see and control the flow of thoughts between minds. Dr. Park called a young human researcher named Hannah. The results from the long-term study are ready. Jiwoo followed Hannah to the research center, a dome-shaped building with walls that shifted color based on the collective emotional state of those inside. Today it glowed a peaceful green-blue. Inside, Minji waited with Niren, the Azurian technical specialist, who had once been caught extracting thoughts without permission. Now they worked as equals, co-leaders of the Neural Technology Division. The data confirms our hypothesis, Minji said, bringing up charts on a large display. Repeated consensual exchanges create lasting neural pathways in both species. The benefits don't fade over time. They compound. Niren pointed to a comparison of brain scans. Humans show a 43% increase in problem-solving capacity and emotional regulation. Azurians show a 67% increase in creative thinking and individual expression. Most importantly, Hannah added, neither species is becoming more like the other. We're not homogenizing. We're complementing each other's natural strengths. Jiwoo smiled, remembering the fears that had nearly ended the program before it began. Some humans had worried they would lose their individuality and become like the collective-minded Azurians. Some Azurians had feared that human chaotic thinking would disrupt their harmonious society. Instead, something beautiful had emerged. Later that day, Jiwoo joined Captain Dodian, now Ambassador Kim, for the arrival of the first colony ship from Earth. After months of debate, the United Earth Council had approved the establishment of a permanent joint settlement on Callum. Nervous? Do-Yun asked as they watched the massive ship descend through the atmosphere. Hopeful, Jiwoo replied. These 500 families volunteered with full knowledge of what awaits them here. The landing platform filled with cheering humans and Azurians as the new colonists disembarked. Children from both species ran forward to present welcome gifts. Simple crystal pendants that glowed with the shared mental impression of welcome from both human and Azurian minds. Among the new arrivals was Tae-Yun, who had returned to Earth with the original crew, but now came back as chief of security for the colony. The ship brought the new interface modules you requested, he told Jiwoo as they embraced in greeting. Earth's best engineers worked with Azurian design principles. They're calling it Harmony Tech now. That evening, a celebration brought everyone together in the central plaza. Tables filled with foods from both worlds stretched across the open space. Music played, a strange but beautiful blend of human rhythms and Azurian harmonics that would have been impossible a year ago. Liran approached Jiwoo during the festivities, his skin shimmering with the deep blue patterns that indicated profound emotion. I have something to show you, he said, leading her away from the crowds to a small garden. There, a crystal structure caught the light of the setting sun and Callum's twin moons. What is it? Jiwoo asked. The first monument created by our new hybrid art form, Liran explained. Azurian artists shaped the crystal, but the design came from human emotional patterns. We call it First Contact. As Jiwoo studied the crystal, its surface seemed to shift and move, revealing different patterns depending on the angle. From one side, it showed separation and distance. From another, connection and understanding. It's beautiful, she whispered. There is more, Liran said. The Council of Elders has made a decision. We wish to share our complete neural architecture with humanity. Juwoo's eyes widened. Your entire collective consciousness. I thought that was your most guarded secret. It was, Lyran acknowledged. But we have learned that protection through secrecy leads to stagnation. The future belongs to those willing to share openly. Such access would need careful protocols, Juwoo cautioned. Not everyone is ready for that level of connection. Of course, Lyran agreed. We propose starting with a small group of human scientists who have experience with our exchange program. You would be the first, if you consent. The offer took Juwoo's breath away. Access to thousands of years of Azurian collective knowledge would transform human understanding of consciousness itself. I would be honored, she said finally. As they walked back to the celebration, Juwoo reflected on how far they had come from the suspicion and secrecy of their first meeting. What had begun as theft, aliens stealing more than just hearts, had evolved into the most profound gift either species could offer, the sharing of minds. In the plaza, human children played with young Missourians, their laughter blending into the night air. Some wore small interface devices that allowed them to share simple thoughts and feelings. Friendship, curiosity, joy, without words. This is just the beginning, isn't it? Juwoo asked. Lyran looked up at the stars visible through Callum's clear atmosphere. The beginning of something neither of our species could have imagined alone. Together, they rejoined the celebration. Two individuals from worlds light years apart, no longer separated by secrecy or fear, but united by the simple truth that the greatest treasures of the mind are those freely shared.